This episode of RSR is brought to you by iZotope, Native Instruments, SAE Institute, Atom Audio, Spectra 1964, Grace Design, and Picker. These are tools that I use every day in my studio, from the Spectra 1964 STX 600 and Native Instruments Complete 15 to iZotope Ozone and RX, Atom Audio monitoring and headphones, and the central hub for my studio, the Grace Design M701 audio interface. Check out my studio profile on the Picker app on iPhone or Android and follow the sponsor links in the show notes. Grab my free mixing course at mixmasterbundle.com, and remember to like this video and subscribe on YouTube because it's a great way to help support this show. Now, get ready to rock.
The 360 cameras that we use, phenomenal, because we do a lot of VR and augmented reality. So we just put one of the 360 cameras on a tripod in the middle of the room in the studio, and then we're able to get everything that goes on in the studio. So they've created some good content, not just in this studio, but we utilize a studio in St. Louis called Shock City Studios. And when we have those like weeks or those days, those sessions, just put the GoPro in the middle of the room. And, not that I drink tequila anymore, but in those days, after a couple of shots, people forget that the camera's even there, and you get some really just authentic moments, that happen in the studio.
Welcome to Recording Studio Rockstars. I'm Lid Shaw, and this is the podcast created to help you become a rock star of the recording studio. Rock stars, if you want your mixes and masters to translate everywhere, iZotope Ozone 12 gives you the tools to finish with confidence. The new bass control helps you see and balance your low end and punch. Unlimiter brings back life to overcompressed tracks, and Stem EQ lets you rebalance vocals, drums, or bass using only the stereo mix file. And when it's time to get loud, Ozone's new IRC Maximizer gives powerful, clean masters without distortion. Go to iZotope.com and use the code ROCK10 for 10% off. Howdy, rock stars. It's your host, Lid Shaw, and welcome back to Recording Studio Rockstars, bringing you into the studio to learn from recording professionals so that you can make your best record ever and be a rock star of the studio yourself. My guests today, plural, are Ronnie and Tiffany Notch, co-founders of Breach Asymbli, as an internationally recognized company uniting music, technology, and education, and a creative platform for producing and releasing new music. As artists, producers, and entrepreneurs, they're developing music rooted in hip-hop, R&B, and pop while pioneering immersive learning for millions of students worldwide. Ronnie is a Billboard charting producer and CEO of Breach, and Tiffany, COO and co-founder, is a leader in music tech and innovation, forging partnerships with Microsoft, Amazon, and Spotify to bridge access between creativity and education. Together, they're redefining how music production and technology can inspire the next generation. And I want to give a big thank you to our mutual friend, Chris King, for making our introduction. Please welcome Ronnie and Tiffany Notch to Recording Studio Rockstars. Ronnie and Tiffany, are you ready to rock?
Hey, we're
Absolutely.
ready to rock. Let's do it.
It's great to have you guys here. So nice to meet you. And I really enjoy reading both your names out loud. I feel like I'm saying Sonny and Cher or something, so it's kind of cool.
No, that's awesome. Not quite as cool as them yet.
I know. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love that.
Give us a little while.
Yeah. Well, Cher broke in our appreciation for autotune, right? Initially, although I heard that wasn't autotune on that song. And here we are, potentially discussing genres of hip hop and urban music, which is like completely embraced that sound too. So it's all connected. It's all connected.
We had a conversation about that last week. We were like, who did it first? It was somewhere between Cher, was it Ricky Martin, and then Casey and JoJo. They all had a record that came out like within 3 months of each other, and you can hear that same sound. So is it Melodyne? Is it Auto-Tune? Who knows what it is at this point?
Well, at that point, I don't think Melodyne was around.
I think you're right, yeah.
Because I've been, well, we've probably both been doing this that long, but I remember it was 2003 when I was like, the first demo of Melodyne, it was like they took a trumpet and just stretched it for 30 seconds or something. I'm like, oh, okay, I got to go do that. Although, ask me how many trumpets I've stretched out on a record. Zero. Yeah.
But at least you know that it's a possibility if you ever wanted to do it.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. So, and Ricky Martin, that's a cool reference too. Was that La Vida Loca?
I think so. I could be confusing Ricky Martin and Mark Anthony in this moment. I just remember there's a song. I am on the spot right now, but I will come back with that information later.
Don't worry. You know what? You know what they say? You know, the best way to hide an elephant is to put it in a herd of elephants. So I'll just make sure we put ourselves in so many spots on this interview that we'll forget which one we thought we were in the spot on. How's that?
Chris said you were a good man. I believe it.
Well, thank you. That's what he said about both of you. So welcome to the show. It's really cool to see you on camera there and see the look of the studio. It's super vibed out looking. Tell us about where you're joining us from. And I don't have a plan for this. So why don't you guys just answer in your own style for how you want to trade off or whatever.
Okay. Want to go first?
Rock, paper, scissors.
So this is the version 3 of the home studio. I think what are we doing in here? 7.4.2 Dolby Atmos.
Cool.
Would love to be able to fit some more, but it's only so much you can do in a house. We call this the room for improvement, because you can always figure out a way to be better than you were yesterday. So it's not just for Tiffany and I working out of, although that's 90% of it. If we were to pan to the walls, our children's guitars are in here as well. And my trumpet, which has been stretched out in a different way, I have to get it fixed, is over there. Tiffany's guitars are taking over the room, certainly.
But you can never have too many.
And I've got my
I agree.
And I got turntables because I have to remember how I started. So
that's awesome. Well, let's go there next. So, Tiffany, would you like to talk about your, who you are? Maybe give us a brief overview of your introduction to music, to making all this incredible work that you're doing now together with the music and the production and the education.
Absolutely. So I come from a very musically talented family. My parents were both touring musicians, one on the secular side, the other one was gospel. So pretty much both sides of the spectrum they were on when it comes to music. So my background is pretty well versed. I started at an early age, of course, in church. So the choir singing, and then let's fast forward to, I think every young girl that started in music at some point wanted to form a girl group. So I did experience that. Third grade was my first girl group. And of course, we wanted to be the Spice Girls.
Oh, yeah. I was going to ask you which girl group you guys were excited about.
Oh, yeah. Spice Girls. I'm still a Spice Girls fan. We're just waiting for Spice World to pop up on streaming somewhere.
Sporty Spice? Which Spice? Didn't they all have names?
Yeah, so there was Sporty, Posh, Ginger, Scary, and Baby.
Who wanted to be Scary Spice? I don't really know enough about him. That's pretty awesome, too.
Was that Mel B?
Yeah, that was Mel B.
Okay.
So Mel B is now on America's Got Talent,
I believe.
Yeah. Or she has been.
That's great.
A lot of that background just really has stayed with me as far as inspiring my day-to-day as an adult. I don't think that I could ever leave music alone. I have pivoted many times prior to Ronnie and myself meeting each other. And whenever you want to jump in, that's fine. I feel like I'm talking a lot.
No.
No, it's great. I like hearing your story.
Oh, thank you. So yeah.
You didn't mention your flute.
I started playing flute in the 3rd grade as well. So that's fun. My instrument experience is pretty much flute, drums, guitar, piano.
So you're kind of a studio badass then. You could play a little bit of everything. Do you sometimes produce a track like where you just record everything yourself?
So one of my favorite, I guess it's kind of like a documentary style studio sessions that I watched was Ryan Leslie, where he went into the studio and he recorded every part using traditional instruments. I think that's amazing to be able to do that if you can. And then, of course, he did go over to the digital side, which just shows the beauty in marrying both worlds. But to answer your question, yes, many times my favorite thing to do is to play the bass. I will find a bass line for any song.
Well, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then how about you, Ronnie? What's your sort of story arc from getting interested in music? I mean, you sounded like you were starting out with some turntables.
Yeah, that's let me think. How does my villain origin story start? A very mean piano teacher at age 7. Yes. But
Mrs. Grimby. I don't know, I just made that up.
I forgot her name. She was French, but I've forgotten her name.
No offense to anybody whose name is really Miss.
Oh, yeah.
Meanwhile, the title sponsor is Miss Grimby's, So, from there, I took an interest in band, and I had trumpet, trombone, and tuba put in front of me. Thank you, Dr. Termenstein. And
Nice.
I said I like the trumpet, and I just went with the trumpet for as long as I could until I learned about DJing. So trumpet from about 3rd grade to freshman year of high school. And my parents split. Mom moved into a new home, and in the basement, somebody left an old, realistic, I think, turntable. And I said, "What is this?" And I grabbed one of her records and scratched it up completely. And I said, "Is this how they make the sound?" I had no idea. So I took my allowance and I went to a flea market and I bought 2 more used turntables and a Gemini mixer. And I had a friend who knew about DJing. He said, "Yeah, you got to connect all of this," and messed up those records and turntables. And I said, "Mom, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life." And she said, "Well, Christmas is soon. You can have a choice. Some other stuff you had on your list or this." And as a 13-year-old kid, I think I said, whatever game system was coming out, I said, I don't want it. I'd rather have turntables and a keyboard. And I got 2 Gemini 500 XL turntables and a mixer and a Yamaha keyboard that our kids still play with to this day. And I never looked back. DJ'd all through high school, got a job at a skating rink. There's a cool news article that talks about that one because the story is Ronnie Notch lied about his age. Like, that's how the story starts. But I did. I was like 13 or 14 and I loved it. And I got to the point one day I said, I'm tired of playing other people's records. Would love to know what it'll be like to create my own. And traded those turntables in for a Roland MC505 groove box. And it's been music production for now 22 years.
How many years did it take you before you were like, why did I ever get rid of the turntables? I should have kept them.
I wish. Probably that first publishing negotiation or whatever it was, like when you deal with that first bad label experience or manager experience. Tiffany, actually, I'm sorry, and I know this is rambling, but last year, well, for the past few years, I have been talking about DJing. I don't have any hobbies, and I'm sure you understand this too. It's like when you do music is typically the hobby for people.
Yeah.
But when it's, the occupation and the job, sometimes you can lose that fun and that passion. And I guess I've been saying it too much because for my 40th last year, Tiffany, my mom and her mom gifted me a set of the Rain 12s. So I got 2 Rain 12s and the 70, I forgot what mixer that is right there. But
and the Rain 12s, those are the turntables? New ones?
Correct. Yep.
See, that's you. I'm already going, I'm slightly out of my depth at this point. I mean, just as far as.
I'm sorry. No.
I would have known maybe the Techniques 1200 or something like that.
And I thought I wanted that. I really did, because I grew up, after I started working, that's all they had was Technics 1200s, MK2s, MK3s.
Yeah.
And I actually am very appreciative that you knew the right thing to get because there's no replacing needles or anything. So yeah, so that's my story, man. There's a lot of stuff in between there, but music has always been a part of it.
What is it about those turntables that you don't have to replace needles?
Well, it's a digital vinyl system. So,
so it's like MIDI vinyl kind of thing, or not MIDI, SMPTE vinyl. I don't know what they do.
To a degree, yeah. That has like a little laser and to be able to track it. But I mean, it is instant. Like there's no difference if I'm transforming or doing anything with turntables like I would on a regular set of. This emulates it in a way I've never seen before. I'm not trying to sell Rain turntables here, but the emulation is
This
perfect.
Is not a paid promotion.
I know, right? You got to market, but yeah.
So wait, what does it do? Does it use an actual vinyl record, but the laser reads the grooves?
Actual vinyl record, but it has a little bit, has like a little sensor, right, where, now I'm forgetting terms of turntables, but the little stem that, you place the vinyl on.
Yeah.
There's a little small disc about the size of a hole of a 45. And it, it controls it that way.
Wow, that's a trip. That sounds like a lot of fun. Dreaming of a career in audio or the entertainment business? SAE Institute Nashville, in the heart of Music Row, offers hands-on programs where you'll learn on professional-grade gear with industry pros, learning through real projects, not just lectures. Explore studio production, live sound, audio for film, and a whole lot more. Or take the entertainment business program to learn about contracts, promotion, and more. With diploma, associate, and bachelor's programs, there's a path for you. Book a tour today at nashville.sae.edu or call 615-244-5848. So I grew up loving, learning and loving classic rock. I grew up learning, to appreciate sort of the music around the family kind of music, because we would play acoustic guitars and I'd have uncles who would play Jimmy Buffett songs and old, Freight Train, like the classic finger pickings. So I grew up around that, but also, I grew up as a kid when, a breakbeat came out and, breakdance movies in the 80s, and we loved that shit. We just enjoyed it so much. And so I've always had a deep appreciation for hip hop and all of it, but I never learned how to scratch, or I never, just noodled a little bit. I always felt like, it'd be so cool to know that.
Never too late.
Never too late. I love it. Okay, groovy. So now, fast forwarding, you guys have done a few more things. I think you have a few amazing children. You've got, you're sitting in an Atmos studio, which looks super cool. And you've created a record label and put out productions. And also, you've started something very cool called Breach. And so explain to us, what is Breach and Asymbli, and what's the relationship with both?
I won rock, paper, scissors, so you got to go.
I started with the background. I think you'll do great.
All right. Okay. So Breach started because Tiffany and I, when we met, I guess this is a part of a cool story too. When we met, we met in a recording studio. Cool. I had just got hired to be the chief music producer of the studio, and Tiffany was brought in to be a vocalist. She left out that part about her singing, although she mentioned the girl group. Yeah. So we both, how do I put this in a very easy way? We both were presented contracts that neither one of us thought were good contracts. So we were introduced because of opportunistic behaviors brought us together, right? So we went and grabbed coffee and we said, you know what, this doesn't look right. So from that day, we both had this kind of just natural thing built into each other to kind of look out for each other. But it was also for others too, because we wondered, well, who else is receiving a contract like this that isn't really in their best of interest? We did a little bit of work in around 2012 and came up with a curriculum for University of Missouri, St. Louis. Tiffany, myself, along with Ira DeWitt, started the audio recording certificate program that UMSL carried for like, I don't know, like 5 years maybe. Did some adjunct professor work there, but realized that a lot of those lessons, it felt like we were teaching them a little bit too late in life to students. And
Right.
what impact could we have if we were to teach younger kids, like pre-K through 12? What would that look like? And we went back to the drawing board and came up with what was known as Notes for Life Arts and Technology. We had every intention of hosting classes in a small building and doing it for free. And then we went into the Microsoft store on my 30th birthday and just had regular conversation. And we met someone, Trina. Trina is responsible for everything. I give her credit. We give her credit in anything we do. Trina said, "You can have those same classes here at the Microsoft store." We said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, but we can never afford that." She said, "It's free." We said, "Yeah, we'll do that." So we kind of went back to the drawing board and redid everything. And Notes for Life started with 6 students. By the end of year one-ish, we were at 80,006 students because the programming and curriculum was in every store that they had, minus like 2 in the world. And we just really wanted to be that intersection before that intersection really existed of music education meets technology in terms of like applied learning and real world learning experiences. And from there, we've been fortunate enough. And around 2018, we said if we're only teaching, music as it relates to technology, we may be doing a disservice to what the world is headed towards and everything we're seeing now with machine learning and AI. So we became Breach. Breach was a much smaller URL when it came time for emails. So it was easier for people to get in contact with us. The domain was a lot less confusing. And we've been Breach since about third quarter 2018 and still have music at the foundation, but anything from smart city development to Internet of Things to, as I mentioned, auto ML and augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality. We incorporate all of those things and use music as a way to introduce students and communities to pathways that maybe they didn't really understand or see.
Okay, cool. So it's sort of a way of, does it feel a little bit like a way to, because you listed a bunch of things, smart city, Internet of Things. I mean, there's like various topics. Does it feel like this is tapping into a much broader conversation by connecting yourself with those technologies so that you can bring a particular message of music and, hope to a younger generation in terms of, what can be positively done and impactful with the music? Is that a fair question?
No, absolutely. I found that we have used and we found ourselves being able to use music as the universal language that it is. So we attract students and also adults because we have service K through 12 and college and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really speaking their language to be able to show them and expose them to other opportunities that they may have not had or been exposed to before. And that has really proven itself to be what has really catapulted the work that we've done and also shown students and adults, as I've said before, just the power of music.
And there's
Okay,
exciting
cool.
stuff with that too, because you get a chance to leverage the technology and put that right back into music. So before, if I'm talking about, I have this really cool idea, but it's going to cost $60,000 to shoot this video. Well, I'm not saying that prompting and AI is the best thing in the world, but if I'm teaching you how to effectively prompt, and you're not just running through 800 million gallons of water to get everything wrong,
Right.
you can still get your vision across. And now you're adding to the experience of music. It's not really, and this may be a different conversation, and I'm sorry, but, I'm not saying you need to let AI do everything for you when it comes to music, because I think, quote unquote, the purist in me disagrees with that. But I think that if you're able to use technology and leveraging it in a way to enhance the music experience, that's what we've been able to do. And I think being under a company like Microsoft for so long until we weren't, really helped us to really have that be embedded in our fabric and who we are.
No, I'm totally down with that. I mean, I hear all the narratives of, guys coming, oh no, what's going to happen to music? And my first response was, well, it's just drum machine 2.0. I mean, when the drum machines appeared, people thought that. When MIDI appeared, people thought that. When CDs appeared, people thought that. Digital music. And so I think it's always wise to see the technology as assisting us in creating. If it wasn't, I mean, a phonograph record is technology.
Certainly.
And that didn't kill the music business or the music creation. It opened it up to possibilities. So I get excited about that. I think there's lots of ways to use these new tools.
Certainly. I agree. Some of the conversations we have don't go this well when we're talking about stuff like this. And I understand, there are some valid concerns, but I feel like, you mentioned technology. When we started talking about Atmos in terms of just integrating that like 2016, 2017, because you're talking about binaural audio and spatial audio and the possibilities. Yeah. The fact that I can have a vocal start in front of you and fly over your head and pan out left and right at certain degrees. There's things that you can do with that experience that you couldn't do with 2-channel stereo. And you certainly couldn't do with mono. So I think it's about how you leverage the technology to really heighten an experience. Ultimately, is like just a new way of being creative. So I won't go on my soapbox, I promise.
I think you shared with us. You shared with us a Spotify playlist. So I've got a bunch of opportunity to listen to the great productions that you guys are doing, in stereo. So do you also have an Apple Music playlist of Atmos content? If you did,
so those that
we can include that afterwards in the show notes or something like that. Or
perfect. Yeah, we would like to. Some of the stuff, the artists that we shared, unfortunately, none of them opted for an Atmos mix.
It's a tricky thing getting people involved in it too, and also the intersection of bringing on new technologies, but not just sort of passing along a higher expense to the creatives who are like, I'm just trying to figure out how to do this, period. Do you have thoughts on that and the best ways, best practices to do that? How do we introduce all these technologies to the creative folks where it feels like they're accessible and not out of reach?
Because I'm going to jump out of my seat. If I don't say it, I'll go first, but please. Okay. That's been, I think, like our passion for man, this sounds crazy, but ever since Pokemon Go came out in 2016, we've been really brainstorming, how do you make music consumption fun again and music creation fun again? You use some geospatial technology here and there. If you can put tidbits about an artist, and I think we may have even talked about this on our first call when we first met, but specifically with binaural audio and spatial audio, we are able to add those elements, a VR or like in a virtual and sometimes augmented reality settings and experiences. Because if you're putting on a headset, it's nothing, it's normal to hear audio all around you with a VR headset on. It's not so normal if, you have a cell phone, and if you're not everybody's going to have 11 or 14 speakers in their room. So you go to the places where it's already commonplace.
Yeah, that's true.
People watch film on movies and shows on Netflix all the time that has Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos. So find ways to put music in the settings where it already exists. And we did that with virtual reality, create the virtual experiences that tell the story visually that an artist is attempting to tell sonically. And then just, spoon feed people the new technology, or spoon feed listeners the technology without even saying, hey, this is what I'm doing.
Rock stars, if you want fresh song ideas, Complete 15 from Native Instruments has the tools to kickstart your creativity. With Contact 8's Chords tool, you can generate and customize chord progressions instantly for songwriting. And the Phrases tool gives you ready-to-go melodic inspiration right at your fingertips. With 165 instruments and over 150,000 sounds, Complete 15 helps you turn blank pages into music. Pair that with a complete control keyboard or machine hardware for seamless integration and hands-on control. Go to nativeinstruments.com and use the code ROCK10 for 10% off. Would you guys like to explain more about that? I know you've done some really creative things, when you talk about this Pokemon geospatial, I'm going to butcher the terminology, but geospatial technology or whatever. Tiffany, would you like to tell us about that too, about what you guys did in terms of music releases on your label and how to interact with that experience to build more momentum?
I kind of got the
So you got to
Yes, I will. So a lot of it, as Ronnie said, was in and has been in the VR space, which is really we found, and I will say this because I didn't jump in and cut you off in the back
I'm
on
sorry.
the last question, but we've been able to, I think, successfully show artists the benefit of having those experiences when it comes to leveraging technology like virtual spaces and worlds, because it allows them to access audiences that they may not have been able to before. We all experienced the pandemic, which put a hard stop on in-person events. And I think it was a catalyst to the change that we've all seen with the reach of artists that may not have had the same capital or resources before. So we've done that where you can use the immersive experience and we're telling a story. Like they're able to live that artist's story through this virtual experience, as well as you're, of course, experiencing the mixing. So you're surrounded by the sound and we can feel the difference. I think it's always cool when you hear the difference when something has been mixed in Atmos and you are, it's like you're there in the production. Whereas when you're just listening to something, you think about it in your car or through your headphones, just one A side, B side, left, right. It's not as moving. And I can tie that again to the guitar, which is what I love to do. When you're picking the strings, you feel the emotion behind it. You get to feel a lot that was put in versus what's oftentimes left out on the creative end to the consumer.
Yeah, 100%. There's something, even just like seeing a live show, there's an experience you have being in the room that's hard to carry back with you, how many times have you gone to see a live show and you get a phone thing and then you go watch the phone thing later and you're like, it was so much better than that.
Yeah.
It's that ability to create more of an experience with the music. But Ronnie, go ahead. It sounded like you were just about to jump in too.
Yeah. No. You mentioned how we've used it. I just thought about it. One of the songs I think we added on that playlist was a record called Wake the City Up. And it was by an artist, Johnny Wayne. And it was created to be the anthem for the Battlehawks. So I remember going into that mixing session and wanting to create the feeling of somebody's listening to it. You need to feel like you're in the stadium. Fortunately, we were one of the franchises where they had 30,000 plus people there every week during the season. But you have to create that. We created that song before the first game took off. So you want to create the feeling of a packed stadium. So then when you hear the song in the stadium, it's not too far off from if you're listening to it in Atmos or a 2-channel, 2-track. And I think that's probably one of the first records we did where, and that record actually has been mixed and mastered for Atmos. They just opted to not have it released in that format. But when I do listen to it in here or other studios, you get a chance to really, it is kind of like you're feeling that, you're living that feeling all over again. So I know you mentioned where have we applied that? And I had to really think like, just because they haven't been released doesn't, we've mixed all these records in Atmos, but that one in particular, that's using Atmos to recreate the feeling of a packed stadium. Amazing.
Yeah. And also you do that in the production sonically too. Cause you have this sort of cool distorted megaphone sound and the drums, it's just like, it sounds like alarms going off, it's got that kind of stadium, like blowing a stadium horn, that quality to it. So like
intention.
Doing things like that, the Atmos is immersive, but like also, I guess part of my question too is, Tiffany, you're talking about the immersive experience in VR. So how do you guys, how are you integrating VR? And are you using that term to refer to the Atmos mix, or are you actually applying the Atmos mix to a VR experience that's then getting delivered to people to get to know the artist, get to know the music? And how is that even delivered? I think it's okay to just treat us like we've never, we like, you're like, oh, look, this is a pencil, I've never heard of one, so you can tell us like what kind of tools you use to play the music for people, how you get it to them, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure. That's the position.
No. We're not going to keep referencing that. Yeah, so with the VR experiences, we've done everything from fireside chats, listening parties, exclusive meet and greets with the artists, and we integrate the mix into the experience. So that's pretty much, I guess, is that proprietary?
No, what we've done
as far as going in depth, we have used, and I believe it's a great tool. It is something that has been and is being partially overshadowed with the rise of AI, but Unreal Engine has been a great tool for our company as we are creating the experiences.
Oh, yeah.
So you guys are using tools like Unreal Engine to create environments as part of what you're making?
No,
I have never messed with it, but I've watched a lot of videos about how it works, and the new versions roll out, and I think it's fascinating. It's pretty amazing what's possible with that stuff. But how does somebody experience it? Through you sort of get yourself a VR headset, or one of these ones that comes from Meta. I remember, we picked up one for my daughter when she was back in high school one winter.
And well, depending on the age of your daughter, they've evolved since then. Mm-hmm. They've evolved over the last 2 to 3 years, substantially. Yeah. Because now they pretty much are the Meta ones are configured for augmented reality. If you had like the Quest 2, it was kind of just all VR, not really a healthy dose of augmented reality added in it, but right around the Meta Quest 3, or even like, what's that, the 3S, the focus is augmented. You see the Meta glasses now, with everybody wearing them and not having conversations with people that have them on, because you don't know if they're recording. But so I guess if you're talking about process, it used to be, and it kind of still is to a degree, create something in Unreal Engine, define that world. You've already made music, if we're using Pro Tools or Logic or whatever we're doing to make music. If we mix it for Atmos, which we 9 times out of 10 have to do if we're thinking about embedding it in this immersive world, like Tiffany was saying, and then either browser-based experiences or wearing it with a headset as an experience too, being able to, and by browser, I don't just mean like laptop or computer, like you can do browser based on the phone and still have an experience. I think part of that purist of me is, please don't listen to my music just on an iPhone, out of the speakers, or turn it to the side for stereo. But that's a possibility too. But that's how we offer it now. I think if there was a way to offer an immersive VR experience with 3D glasses, I think that would be the ultimate, not only do you feel like it's there already with the headset, the 3D would add those other dimensions to it. That's how you could experience what we've created so far.
Okay, so literally, if we get the Apple Vision Pros or the Meta Quest 3, there's a particular Microsoft one too? I apologize, I don't know all the different brands of VR headsets that
there's a couple. Microsoft used to really push the HTC Vive. They had a HoloLens, but it was more of a like a developer headset. So if you're creating, you would have the HoloLens. HTC Vive Leapfrog makes a really good headset. Mm-hmm. They've kind of been leading the pack for years. I hate to say it, but not hate to say it, but it's just, is that going to affect Meta? But they've been doing a great job forever with just their technology. And I think there are a few companies now that are in that space of designing really consumer-friendly headsets. At the end of the day, if you get more companies
so,
creating it that way, yeah.
Okay, so we get one of these, and then do they typically include the audio experience, or do you also just put your Apple AirPod Pros in and you sort of combine it, and that's how you're hearing the audio in the spatial experience plus experience in the VR? Or how do you explain the way that works? And again, apologies, you're getting some old guy questions here. But I know there are a lot of us in this world that haven't experienced it yet. And so where you get it's easy to fall behind. I mean, you made the point too. Things advance so quickly now. It's like if it takes you 2 years to figure something out, by the time you figure it out, it's sort of like it can feel outdated sometimes. You know what I mean? Because something new comes along so fast.
For example, the MetaQuest 2 had a really good sound system. It's like I was looking to see if I had one close. I was just going to reach over and grab it. There's a sound bar that has like upper and lower speakers. I mean, I'm sorry, I said the 2. The 2 had a really good one. The 3 just went astronomically through the roof in terms of the sound. I even use it for gaming too. So not just music, but for gaming experiences. It's really good in like Fortnite and Call of Duty because no one can sneak up behind you. So the sound is superior. So if you're listening, and if you wanted to listen to like, your Apple library, like or Tidal, anything with like a Dolby Atmos or binaural audio signature with it, you could do that with the headset too. And really, you don't get the low end like a subwoofer, but you get everything else in terms of just the movement. Excuse me.
Is anybody figuring out how to integrate the subwoofer experience and the VR simultaneously?
Not that I know of, but I think, Liz, you have our full support when you go for it and do it.
Well, I mean, if you're listening I guess, if you have VR glasses on and you're in an Atmos playback system, you begin to get the audio, the high quality audio and the visual experience. I'm fascinated by the concept. I mean, like I'm looking at you guys and I see your Atmos room there for mixing, and it still looks like, classic chairs and a computer screen and keyboards and then speakers looking at you. And I keep thinking like, when do we just put our headset on and now we're just standing in an empty room and we've got incredible sound and we're creating and it's like, full body movement and stuff like that. I think that concept is fascinating to me.
Some people are doing that. Was that Steven Slate with VSX, the VSX headsets? They can emulate a lot of different rooms and environments, and they have that for Atmos. We did have an engineer, Alex Cruz in Chicago, mixed in Atmos with the VSX, if I'm not mistaken. Something I was going to say too, what you said. I think some companies are moving towards like haptic technology, to replace the low end. So you are feeling it. They had like Subpack had a vest you could put on, and when the low end frequency happened, you would feel it. It would kind of just wrap you. So I think there are companies that are thinking that way. How do you create the film and music experience to be more haptic than just sonic or visual?
Yeah, well, that goes way back to the bone phones and stuff like that, and.
Right.
I forgot what maybe it's the same company that does like a vest you can wear and a chair that kicks.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of people, I don't know, 10 years ago, I remember hearing and learning about that, mixing in headphones, but also getting that sort of low end experience through the physical. Well, it's all very exciting stuff. And I think this is a lot of fun to talk about. Hey rock stars, when it's time to finish your music, iZotope Ozone 12 gives you the powerful new tools to master with confidence. The new bass control helps you balance your low-end EQ, sustain, and punch so that your tracks translate everywhere. Unlimiter restores clarity and impact to overcompressed mixes, and Stem EQ lets you rebalance vocals, drums, and bass using only the stereo mix file. When it's time to push loudness, Ozone's new IRC5 Maximizer delivers clean and powerful competitive masters that stay open and musical. And with an updated mastering assistant that guides, not decides, you can move faster, make better decisions, and stay fully in control from start to finish. Go to isotope.com and use the code ROCK10 for 10% off. Howdy, Rockstars. We're back now for the jam session, aka the second half of this show. My guests today are Tiffany and Ronnie Notch, joining us from St. Louis. Are you guys ready to jam?
We're ready.
We're ready.
All right. So what should we dive into next? I'd love to, these interviews, one of the beautiful things about them is that they're pretty extensive. So we can really kind of dig into the full story on something, or, really dig into the mechanics of how things work and stuff. You had mentioned something called Asymbli at one point, and I wanted to ask you, what was that and how is that related to what you guys do?
Asymbli is the music house, so to speak, of Breach. So it's our entertainment sector, and that is where all of the magic happens, I like to say.
Right on.
As it relates to music, magic happens in I have to give a disclaimer, magic happens in other parts of Breach.
Of a company, correct.
Yeah.
No, Asymbli, I think we kind of talked about that before, Liz, where it's like, we always wanted music to be music has to be in the foundation of what we do. We're big on intentional authenticity, and it's really good to have all these fascinating, fun areas of emerging technology. But as we mentioned, like Tiffany and I met in the studio, our kids are immersed in music. Music is us. You've heard my origin story, Tiffany's as well. So Asymbli is us keeping our promise to ourselves that if we're going to have this company, it still we have to remember why we did it, and then take that and have, let that be educational and also let that be profitable, but it has to have a strong element of music. So there are some things we can't do on the EDU side that we can do with Asymbli. There may be some releases or music ventures that we do on the Asymbli side that have nothing to do with the EDU side of things, or not a lot to do with the EDU side. So Asymbli is where we have music and entertainment and film, and a great team that makes sure that stuff goes off the way it needs to.
Well, can you give us can we dive into the weeds? Like, what are you guys doing over there right now? What's on the plate now?
So on the plate right now, I'm sorry, you want to go ahead?
No, you're fine.
That's just me being excited. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're fine. It's okay.
All right. Yeah. So right now, we're gearing up for some releases that are happening first quarter 2026. This is more so where we've been able to create what we call storyboarding ideas for music. So what we do, Tiffany, myself, a couple other producers and writers, and 2 other engineers, what story needs to be told? What story do we think needs to be told in music? And then we compose, we write, we reference, vocal reference. And then from there, it sounds kind of backwards, right? But then you treat finding the artist the same way a film studio would go to cast different roles for a movie or for a show. Mm-hmm. So we're in the stage right now where we're wrapping up the production and wrapping up, so to say, what the story looks like. And now we have the fun job of actually finding the artist to carry and deliver it.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, that's similar to like what the band Garbage did when they founded, Butch Vig and Billy Bush and stuff like that. As those guys, my understanding was that they were already doing production together. They had loved playing music together, and they thought, let's find a singer. And that's how they found Shirley.
Yep. Yeah, that's how we're doing on this side. It's, and sometimes it's helpful to the artist, in 2025, how can you just be an artist? You got to be an artist and a content creator, and you got to be a social media manager, and you got to do all these different things. So in our experience, we've met artists that are more so appreciative, that we're coming to them with more than, hey, and not there's anything wrong with it, but it's not just, hey, here's a bed of music, go pour out your thoughts on it and go write something to it. Presenting it in almost and this could be something we did learn from the partnership with Microsoft. Microsoft is notorious, and they say it themselves, so it's not me saying anything bad. They only look at acquiring companies or products that are at 80% or more. They want to come in and do the other 20%. And I think that we've started treating music that way. We have all these ideas and these concepts. Let us get something to 80%, so to speak. And we need that artist to come in and do the rest of it. Now, not saying that artist only does 20%, but let us get it to a place where we can clearly explain it and maybe sometimes even visually showcase it. And then the artist is able to, oh yeah, this fits me. I can step into this role, so to speak.
Are you able to talk about an example of a particular project that you're taking to 80% right now?
Yeah, go ahead. You got it. January
or have something that you've completed and what that was like. We'd love to hear the details or the description.
Two to choose from. Go ahead.
So I won't go into too much detail for the first one, but in January we do have the Q1 release that Ronnie mentioned earlier. That's one that we're really excited about. I personally am very excited about, and it is an example of that process. And the other one, I'll let you talk.
All right. So there's a project called The Landing that we just recently released by an artist, Bianca Shaw. And Bianca Shaw is a talented musician. I mean, as great of a writer and recording artist and rapper and even singer that she is, she's probably that and much more of a drummer, I can't even explain it. I mean, she's been on America's Got Talent, Chicago Sky, the WNBA team, just phenomenal percussionist. But being able to and you're again being modest, but Tiffany and Bianca kind of figured out how we could work with her, like how Asymbli and Bianca could kind of come together to create this. But it was more so our idea that we've had for the last couple of years of what's this idea of high impact landing that is very vague and mysterious. Well, when we first started this out in 2023, we weren't talking about huge comets orbiting Earth and everything else. So now that we are releasing this and they got all this interstellar talk, it's created some really cool SEO opportunities, so to speak, because we've been, it's called The Landing. So the project being called The Landing and people are looking up, when does 3i Atlas land? It's like, hey, we're getting an uptick in music stuff right now because of what's going on in the real world. But so creating those visuals around this project, and Bianca really just stepping into it and saying, this does already fit who my fans know me to be. And it fits with who I am and like the natural, I think she called it the natural growth and rebranding of herself. It's been an amazing experience to be able to work with her. I think that's the most recent example we can give of us doing that. But there are a couple others, as Tiffany mentioned.
That's really cool. And it's funny to me is when I saw The Landing, of course, I'm kind of old school St. Louis. I'm like, oh, The Landing, which is down by the riverfront. That's like a whole area in St. Louis. It's,
Yep.
I don't know how it's changed, but when I was there, it was having a rebirth, and I don't know if it's, become even more developed or less, or if that was a chapter. But that's a cool concept, and the idea of like creating and then tapping into the moment, what's happening and how does it connect, and finding opportunities to intersect with that. So for example, like you said, if you've got this concept and you create something and then you go out there and it turns out that search results, people are searching for something that's similar or has the same wording, and then you see where there might be interesting connections, it can kind of guide your art. I was even reading about that this morning in Rick Rubin's book on creativity, is this idea of like tuning ourselves creatively and so that we are picking up on the signals when we're trying to create,
Yeah,
I think that's a perfect thing where we can talk about how you approach things when you're talking about signal and noise. I think that's very helpful.
Hit it. I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I put you on the spot.
You gotta get above the noise, buddy. You gotta get above the noise.
So is this what the jam session is? But yeah, that's what it is. It's, I've been studying that for like the last few years now, like how many things are noise. As you mentioned, like our greatest creations are our three children, right?
Yeah.
And we try
My daughter's the best record I ever made.
I love that.
Yeah.
Man, that's a great shirt.
Mhm.
Please do it. Please do the shirt so I can buy it. That's amazing. We look at it that way. We homeschool. So a lot of our time is intentionally spent with our children, right? But that also means that we don't, man, how do I say this without sounding any kind of way? We don't have the time we don't have the luxury to have as many distractions as others may have. You know, I think it's cool. Anybody can be on their phone and look at whatever they want to look at. I think that's amazing. But I also am very careful to always recognize it's a luxury to be able to just scroll and look at things on your phone. And that's not the same luxury that I think we have right now by having the mindset and vision that we have to complete some of these things that we know we need to complete. Because if I do that, am I being as obedient to the signal that I need to be? And the worst feeling in the world, and Liz, I'm sure you've experienced and countless others have experienced it, there's nothing worse than hearing your idea be executed or seeing your idea be executed by somebody else. So I feel like I'm always in competition with like the future. If I'm not obedient now, I'm going to hear about it in the future. I'm going to see it. So
yeah, I swear I was just reading that in the very same book, the idea that there's sort of like a larger collective energy and creativity and messaging that goes on, and it's the artists in us have the opportunity to tap into that, tune into it, and pick up on the signal, like you're saying. And if we don't, somebody else very likely will, and that can happen in those times when it's the right timing for something, like the automobile being built, like AI being developed, whatever, pick your technology or pick your art, your style of art, So that's cool. So what are let's talk about that a little bit. What are ways that you guys manage life in your own style now where you're balancing, the work ethic of continuing to produce these things, these visions that you come up with. And this applies to us all. So whether we're just wanting to finish a song in our studio or whether we've got some larger picture for, building it into a business, or we've got like this, massive 5-album vision for this project we're going to do, inevitably, if we want to see our vision through, we have to come up with a kind of a work ethic around it or some way to say, I'm going to sit down and get these parts done. But sometimes we burn out on that too. So like, talk a little bit about how you guys find the balance between pursuing so many grand visions with the businesses, and also finding time for your kids, and also just being playfully creative without burning out or just, compartmentalizing all your times.
I guess I'll take that first.
What about you, Tiffany? I want to hear from you.
So a very large part of anything that I'm involved with, I believe it has to be fun, especially if it deals with a passion. And music is something that when you're coming to the table, especially with other creatives or even just alone, it's from a place of passion, and it's easy. It's so easy to experience burnout when you blend passion and business, because there's that part of obligation. And then there's that, I think every artist, every musician has experienced some part of being perfectionist. So it's like that. Well, no, because it's like we hear things in a way that the average consumer won't. So it's like we have to get this, just right for us. And sometimes that can cause burnout. So it's like, have fun with it. If there's a certain piece that I'm overthinking when it comes to writing, well, I may step away and I'll just do like a freestyle or something very silly. I'm very, very, very silly. I loved cracking jokes because I like to keep the energy light. I feel like that's when it's the most productive. High stress environment is not very productive. So you have to have some fun. Like, okay, well, let me play something. Guitar, I always say, is like that therapist without going to therapy. Yeah. So I may play a song that I just really love or I want to have fun with, and then I'll go back to the drawing board. And that's really a method. Like, Make sure that you're having fun with it, because the moment that you stop, you're going to turn against your passion, and then you'll start turning inward towards yourself, doubting yourself. Then we know doubt turns into fear, and then everything is sitting on the shelf for 10 years.
Are you ready to launch your career in the audio or entertainment business? SAE Institute Nashville, right here in the heart of Music Row, offers hands-on programs to prepare you for the industry. From studio production and live sound to audio for film and a whole lot more. You'll learn by doing, working with professional-grade gear alongside experienced industry pros. If you're more into the business side of entertainment, SAE's Entertainment Business Program teaches essential basics like contracts and promotion to help you navigate the industry. With diploma, associate, or bachelor's degrees, there's a path for everyone. Plus, Career Services supports graduates as they take the next step. Want to see it for yourself? Immerse yourself in Nashville's exciting music scene and book a tour today at nashville.sae.edu or call 615-244-5848. I love that. What about for you, Ronnie? Do you have ways that you sort of balance your time and your day and your week?
I'll be honest, I could be better. I'm not trying to turn this into therapy hour with Liz, but I think part of even like, recording studio rock stars is we call this the room for improvement for a reason. I could be better when it comes to the balance. And I think it comes from a place like Tiffany was mentioning, that passion. You have that feeling of you're passionate about something, you want something to be released. If you're really excited about it, you get to a place where you do want to share it. You do want to share it with others, whether it be for feedback or just for a sense of like self-accomplishment, but you want to share it. And I think, we do make time. Tiffany does it, and I attempt to learn from her, so to speak. I attempt to learn from our children and other people. How do you stay passionate about something, but still maintain a healthy sense of life and living? Because while you're building something, technically you're losing time to appreciate what's already been built. So I try to figure out as best as I can the balance of appreciating what is while appreciating what is to be. And sometimes that's a little bit of for me, there's some trouble navigating that sometimes, just being very transparent as I can be about that.
Yeah, no, it's a fascinating idea. I love the way you put that too. When you're building something, you sometimes lose time to appreciate what has already been built. Is a great way to put it. And I think even about listening to music. So, for example, I find it's very easy to keep going back and listening to the stuff that I'm creating or in the midst of creating or have created. And I really enjoy that. And I even remember Eddie Van Halen once saying, being asked about listening to music, and he was like, yeah, I don't really listen. I'm always just working on stuff, so I'm always listening to that. But the truth is, there's a lot of music that's been built. And if we forget to just give ourselves a chance to just go listen to what's already been made, we're missing out on an opportunity. It's like we're also not tuning into that signal a little bit,
You're right. That was a perfect way to say it. You said Eddie Van Halen. I got to go check. That's a great quote.
I don't even remember where I heard it. I mean, I hear a lot of things over the years and they just stick with me.
Ricky Martin, Mark Anthony. We'll throw a lot of stuff in there. I remember you saying it. So.
Yeah. So there's, what about for either one of you guys, that process of creating where like you've got the initial idea moment and capturing that, the brainstorm moment, like, ooh, or messing around or playing. I mean, Tiffany, you make a great point. Like you gotta allow yourself to have fun and be goofy or just silly or whatever, or just, as creators, especially if you're writing words, you have to be allowed to say something that's stupid. Don't you?
Yeah.
Because otherwise you can't get to the good stuff, right? But
No,
so how
right.
do you guys, like, do you find a flow that works for you from going to that, say something that's stupid, to also like refine it a little bit to also complete it, and now it needs to really sound intentionally professional and all that?
For us, it's called the curtain. For the studio, so there's a glass door before you get into solid wood, but it's got a glass pane so you can see in. And also, so we're not always so separated from our kids. They get a chance to still see us, right? But there's a curtain, a very thick curtain. And when the curtain gets pulled, that's because somebody wants their time to just experiment without judgment or anything being kept. And I think that's become like, not just us, like even our kids. I want to do something. Okay, go in there and close the curtain. We won't judge you. And I think that's how, and because sometimes you have to be comfortable with how something sounds. Like, all right, so this is a breaking story, right? Like I can't sing. So I come in here.
You haven't worked with me yet.
Please don't tell me that. I'll come to Nashville. But I can't sing. But because I can't sing, that doesn't mean that there aren't still ideas that I have to get out, whether it be to Tiffany or anyone else that we work with. Mm-hmm. So I have to at least get it to a place as to where it's sonically bearable without offending and hurting anybody. And that's the curtain being closed. That's that. I think that's the one thing. Like you have to be able to show it to yourself before you can effectively even present it to somebody else to polish it and make it what you hear up here.
I love that. It's curtains for our inner critic or outer critic. You know what I mean?
That's I love it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
absolutely.
Tiffany, for you, same process for you, or do you have some other thoughts on capturing your earliest idea and following it through to completion?
So the first thing is, just for full transparency, Ronnie and I kind of joked about this at the break, because I do, like, before I'm in front of a mic, a camera, I get the jitters. Surprise! I get the jitters. I don't know why. It's like that curtain. I have a curtain behind the curtain. And that curtain is like, okay, everyone's staring at you. Make no mistakes. And I'm like, you're in the spotlight. But so I say, like, I literally do like a full body shake. I just shake everything out. And then I'll make maybe like a run through of, if we're doing a reference, I always tell Ronnie sometimes, depending on if he's recording me or not, I'm like, okay, I just need like 5 minutes so that I can warm up. My warm-ups do not look like the average warm-up of, your la-las or your, even just your like doing those. No, I'm going full thing. Like I may belt as loud as I can just to get that out of there and get my breathing under control. But I have to do something so that I know that every nerve in my body, it's like I'm screaming it out or I'm shaking it out. With writing, the same thing, roughly, maybe not as loud.
I had a joke.
Thankfully,
but I won't
pens
say it.
don't have volume. A joke? But yeah, I think it's just that
so
first
writing
take.
For you, are you actually writing with pencil a lot of times, or is writing more of like ideas that are verbalized into a voice note kind of strat?
I use both methods. It depends on what is closer in proximity for access. A lot of voice notes. I laugh because I'm like, God forbid something happen, Ronnie's going to have a time going through the voice notes. Like those are, there's many. I've lost track. But also
Continue. Sorry.
Sorry.
I get excited because I've got so many questions around these things.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Well, I mean, I was just going to say, if you collect voice notes, do you then have a way that you can intentionally go through the voice notes later to find the good bits and then keep working on them? Because I find that's a place where I can get stuck. Sometimes I'm quick to come up with ideas, but then it's like, well, if you never take it past the idea, it's just an idea that never was, So
I have a lot of those that I have not come back to. But most of them I have kind of like a rule. So if something is stuck in my head in 5 minutes, an hour, 2 hours roughly, if I'm still humming it, then I'm like, okay, we have to record it. If I've forgotten it within like 5 to 10 minutes, I'm like,
Somebody
okay.
else would too.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's a cool analogy. Jack White said that once, that he didn't really write down the songs he was working on because if it was a good one, it was going to stick with him, which I thought was an interesting idea. I do write stuff down because I find that if I keep working on it, I mean, sometimes things do stick with me, but other times something that I loved in something, I'll hear it. I didn't even know I did it. How many times have you been in the studio with somebody and they're singing or they're warming up on an instrument and you're like, what was that thing you just did there? And then they go, oh, you mean this? And you're like, no, not that. No, the other one. No, it's gone. Because it's like, we don't always know when we're doing something brilliant unless we get a chance to step out of ourselves and listen to it back or look at it again.
Happens a lot. We when we record in here sometimes, like if there's so our kids have two babysitters, my mom or Tip's mom, right? So they get a chance to go to either grandmother's. And when we get like those weekends where we can just like work, it's like a camera attachment over there. I'm sorry, I was trying to figure out where it was. A camera attachment, and we just press record. And there are some like 4 hour, 5 hour, 6 hour like sessions because we've learned that, oh my God, like I forgot what I just did. So it's like you need a camera going at all points, like all times when you're actually in that mindset, because I mean, it's impossible to remember everything or to even do something the same way twice. Mm-hmm. So we've been able to kind of like, okay, let's safeguard ourselves. Like, in the event that we forget, the camera didn't forget.
Any reason camera versus just microphone, like audio? Does the camera let you see something that was happening sometimes too? Like, oh yeah, I was working with that instrument or that thing or something.
Oh yes. So I think we share the same SSL controllers. Yeah, because I remember you were mentioning it too.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And there are like just certain features. We have another one set up over here where there's a camera that would be pointed strictly at the Avalon 737 because I want to know, how did we have that dialed in when we were recording this? Mm-hmm. So there's certain
that way you can work really fast. You don't even have to stop to do recall notes and stuff like that.
And we just go right back to it.
I forget recall notes.
Trust me. I mean, there's Post-its and stuff back here, and then the Post-its stop being as sticky, and you're like, man, I wish I would have remembered. So cameras help us see just different things. It may not even be for what you're working on at that moment. It might be like, 2 months ago, we did have the camera going. But can we zoom in and see what the setting was? Like, what was the vocal tracking chain for the song? I can turn over my shoulder right now and see, okay, that's what that was for. May not need it right now, but that camera 2 months from now will be like, that's what you use. So, that's helped a lot. Microphone, we should be having a backup or an all-going microphone way more than we do. But Tiffany's so good that if, we need to do something again, she's able to redo it. Me, not me. You're not getting that from me.
But that's a good point too. Like in the same way that we all have different learning styles, you guys have probably learned this with what you've done. Some of us are auditory, some of us are visual, some of us are spatial, some of us probably remember the words first. And I think it's just, we've got different styles of remembering stuff, different styles of creating a little bit too, but a lot of shared similarities.
And we don't work the same way. Like,
I used to have together. That.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to just say, you prompted the memory for me of back in the early days of making records when you couldn't always be rolling all the time. The tape days, it was a little harder to be rolling all the time. And then you'd learn stuff like, oh, we should keep a DAT tape running in the studio constantly so that it picks up stuff. But I remember thinking, oh, it'd be great to have mics all through the studio that were on like a security recorder so that like anytime somebody, like they just played it and you hadn't even heard it or somebody performed something, it's like, oh my God, that was a brilliant take. We're just going to pull that out and put it on the beginning of the record, ideas like that. Hey rock stars, writing and recording your next great song just got a whole lot easier with Complete 15 from Native Instruments. This powerful toolkit gives you everything from deep sound design to instant musical ideas. Contact 8 introduces creative features like the new Chords tool, letting you generate and customize compelling chord progressions without needing to know music theory, making it perfect for songwriting. And the Phrases tool helps you find fresh melodic lines on the spot. With over 165 instruments and more than 150,000 sounds, Massive X, battery, and Guitar Rig 7 Pro, you've got everything you need to create in any genre. You can shape your ideas into real music fast. Whether you're sketching an idea or finishing a full production, Complete 15 keeps you in the creative flow from first note to final mix. Add your Complete Control keyboard or machine hardware to the mix for seamless integration and hands-on control. Go to nativeinstruments.com and use the code ROCK10 for 10% off.
And in today's climate, content, we just had a meeting last week, and it was like, it's not this like groundbreaking concept, but to me it was. Your content and your knowledge and experience is valuable. So we're setting up a camera to be able to like see what we did and be able to go back to it. Who's to say that someone wouldn't appreciate seeing the moment that the song was thought of, or, a certain note, or if a whistle note was completed, what did she look like when she did that? And all of those things with recording. So, again, I'm the wrong person to talk to because I was the last person in the world to adapt to VSTs. But that said, I'm understanding like, okay, well, just because I may not see the value does not mean that somebody else wouldn't see the value in this.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely a video during the production. It's a huge part of being able to release the music and promote it later. And it is challenging. I think most of the challenge is the fact that we forgot to shoot some video. So it's like just coming up with a way to just make it easy to capture lots of it. At least you got it if you can go back to it, Do any tips on the cameras that work well for that? I mean, is they little GoPros? Is it something else? Is it big fancy cameras? What works for you guys?
GoPros, iPhone, and
what is it called?
Like whatever you got kind of thing.
GoPros, iPhones, but there's one in particular. Oh man. And it's like, it's right. I don't want to keep like turning and like making, like, I feel like that's
DJI or something like that.
No, it's a, what is our 360 camera? Is it Go 360? Whatever it is, the 360 cameras that we use, phenomenal because, we do a lot of VR and augmented reality. So we just put one of the 360 cameras on a tripod in the middle of the room in the studio. And then we're able to get everything that goes on in the studio.
Fascinating. You can
those have been
later,
pretty cool.
Howard. Yeah.
Yeah. So they've created some good content, not just in this studio, but we utilize a studio in St. Louis called Shock City Studios. And when we have those like weeks or those days, those sessions, just put the GoPro in the middle of the room. And, not that I drink tequila anymore, but in those days, after a couple of shots, people forget that the camera's even there and you get some really just authentic moments, that happen in the studio.
Yeah, I think that's great. All right, so next question around that topic is, how complete does an idea need to be before you're like, this is ready for us to work on it?
What do you mean by work on it? I want to make sure I understand.
Well, so for example, I've learned, we've got our mutual friend, Chris. I do a lot of stuff with him and those guys. And I've learned that just the nugget of a sketch of a song, just enough to be like, to give the song an identity, can leave me feeling like, okay, yeah, we can do this one. Cause if we're getting the musicians together, I mean, it's relative to each session you're talking about, but like if we're planning to get together and I know we've got a sketch of an idea, I can feel confident. Yeah, I can finish out that arrangement and chart out the songs so that we know what we're doing musically. And, whoever's singing on it can think a little harder on how they're vocal's going to go and then figure the rest out in the studio. And that surprised me sometimes. Like, I think when we first did band stuff, we thought we had to really rehearse it before we could go record. And while that can be a great way to record, if you really want the performance to be spot on, you can also get into the studio and work on it a little sooner than you think. It doesn't mean you might not have to redo the song again later when you're like, okay, in the end, this was a great demo and we should go, take it to a whole nother level. But that's really my question is like, that process for you guys, places that a song could get stuck from beginning to end instead of like flowing all the way through.
I got two.
Okay.
But if you want to go, we can just
go ahead.
All right. There's two ways, and thank you for explaining that. One, I think it depends on who you're working with. So there's artists we've worked with before where we've given them reference songs 4, 5, 6 months in advance in preparation for like a studio session, and then got to the studio and still couldn't perform the way that was needed to perform, right? And while that's not a regular occurrence by any means, we also learned that everybody's whatever it is they need to perform at a high level or complete something is different. For me, I can hear like a phrase, like if I'm watching something on TV, or like we just wrote a song called A Day. Well, there's a project. We have an entire album coming out called A Day About Tomorrow. And I don't even remember what show I was watching, but some character said it. And I said, you could build an entire album off of that title and it not be what people think it's going to be about. So, sometimes, and I think in a lot of ways, and this is one of the ways we are similar, we just need that little bit of grain of inspiration to take something from A to Z. Mm-hmm. I think it's the letters in between that determine, well, what does Z look like? Was Z you at 100% all the way through, or was Z you at 60% because you just knew you needed to finish it? Ultimately it's that, the stuff in the middle that matters. But I mean, I've been inspired on this video. On this interview already. There's a lot of stuff I want to go start working on immediately. What about you?
I agree. I will second. It depends on who you are working with, and you really get a feel for like what the other person's process is and how that complements your process. There have been times where I will have a full melody, or I'll have an ounce of a melody, and I'll bring it to Ronnie, and I'm like, all right, this is what I have. What do you think about this? And he takes it somewhere completely different than where I even thought it could go.
Mm-hmm. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. No, in a good way. But I think that's just the beauty of what happens when creatives come together and you collaborate. There's times when it happens the opposite way as well.
Sorry.
But yeah, I think whenever you're most comfortable and you feel like you have enough of the story to be able to tell someone else and they can make it make sense, then I think that's when you know that you have something. Because like you said, if you rehearse something, sometimes you can lose that authentic feeling of it.
Right. You can be too, it's like it's too self-aware, too self-understood at that point, You need spontaneity. You need to leave room for creation when you hit the studio, for sure. Something has to be brand new. You want to capture something that just happened right then. It's like taking a photograph, right?
We call it that sounds too quantized. And I know that's bad.
Yeah.
But if it sounds like too robotic, I guess now we could say it sounds too AI. It's too perfect,
Right. Well, especially when you were into first discovering turntable stuff, were you replicating any of the loop making, like old school, where it's like you're literally playing the vinyl and then dropping it in back and forth?
I still
where
do
it's
it.
like, yeah, I mean, and there's you guys, I mean, I'm telling you what you guys know, but there's a looseness to the quality of early hip hop that makes it so fascinating, going back to the 80s and into the 90s before everything got, MIDI gridded perfectly. I'd be curious, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that too. Like, how far back do we have to go to discover that shift in?
So man, this is going to sound terrible. So my first DAW I ever used was, well, I used Magic's Audio Studio and Cool Edit Pro for the first time in the same week. So I always go back to those two as like my first.
I remember Cool Edit Pro.
Before Adobe Audition. So my Cool Edit Pro, and that was really cool when I got 2.0, but that's a different story. For me, sampling was, I had a turntable and I had to RCA it in through my DJ mixer and then into the computer. This is like, before digital vinyl and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know any better because I didn't have anybody teaching me how to do this. So I would record in my sample into Cool Edit Pro and then estimate what the BPM was by using my watch. So I'm counting to 15, but I'm tapping my foot and then multiplying by 4. Like that was just my process. And that allowed me to get my BPM, set it up in Cool Edit Pro. And then I was taking those individual samples and copy pasting those, right? As opposed, I'm sure there was a much easier workflow. And whenever I tell other people this, they're like, man, you hated yourself. But it was all I knew. I didn't know any other way to do it. And the same would go for my kicks or my snares. I didn't have that Roland MC505 yet. I had that, the Yamaha keyboard.
Mm-hmm.
There was no recording on that thing, especially no loops. So that said, it wasn't until recently I found, the bag is right there. I found a bag of my old like productions and beats and music. And I'm like, man, this stuff was really good. But did I ever know what a metronome was or what quantization was? Quantization, and this is like, but it had a different feel. The swing was different. It's how producers talk about the MPC 3000 and the swing of the 3000 versus what you're hearing now.
Yeah.
I miss that. So I'm sorry to go on that soapbox, but I miss that just looseness and just the natural feel of it.
Well, I think that's even more crucial to bring that in now in creation because, all the DAWs we work with, everything's so grid-based and everything's so instantly perfectly put together, I guess, And then with VR, I mean, we run that same risk, as we enter this, digitally created world, it's that wanting to not lose sight of the beauty of inconsistency in nature or whatever, the uniqueness of each thing. I'm going way off now. So I might have to go for a walk with the birds. So yeah. And so like, where do you think you can recapture that now making records? You think, I mean, I will say this, it's one of my favorite things about a microphone and an acoustic instrument. Tiffany, your guitar, I try to remind people on the show that, a microphone is almost sort of an infinite possibility of sounds because there's so many ways you can make sound going into it to create music. Whereas sometimes, a digital library of sounds can feel very limiting in what's possible. It's not really because there are people who do it so well. But I think when you're first getting started, you really need to learn how to explore where the variation of sound is so that you can create things differently. Like when you're creating with digital stuff, sometimes it feels more clicky intentional as far as making changes until you get really fast, maybe with your tools. When you're playing acoustic guitar, you sing, you just do it. You just make the sound the way you feel it.
So that was definitely my experience with starting out with production, going fully digital, because I'm like, okay, where is everything? And I'm looking for a certain sound, and then I'm leaning on Ronnie. I'm like, this is the sound that I want. Where is it? I can't find it. So then I literally have to go and just grab my guitar, the electric, and I'm like, this is what I'm looking for, And then sometimes it's like, it's easier to just play it than to find it. However, I was just having a conversation the other day about how your voice and the voice has become such an underrated instrument now. And when you think about it, because technically you use your voice as an instrument now, you don't have to be able to sing, because you could record something and you can turn that. Are you taking notes? But you could record your vocals and you could take that and turn it into a saxophone. You could take it and you could turn it into your drum pattern.
Like vocal.
Yeah. And so there's, along the lines of what you said, there are infinite possibilities when it comes to a microphone, and being able to navigate, I think, is the skill set that you want to be able to have to succeed with that.
Are you recording your own music or other people's music in your studio, but you're having trouble figuring out how to get your mixes to sound great? Do they sound weak and distant or lack punch and clarity? Well, I've got a gift for you to help you take your mixes from sounding like basement demos to sounding a lot more like professional mixes. And it's my free course called Mix Master Bundle. This course will show you how to get pro-sounding mixes from your home studio with free and stock plugins in Pro Tools. And the best part is, these mixing techniques will work for you in any DAW, whether you're in Logic, Cubase, PreSonus Studio One, Reaper, or anything you can think of. Are you ready to make your best record ever? Then go to mixmasterbundle.com to get started for free now, and you can find the clickable link in the show notes of this episode. Yeah, I think that's great. And I think it's cool to learn with tools like that, be able to figure out, take the way that you can communicate and use the tools to communicate something that you didn't have the ability to yet, And that's also to your point, Ronnie, of the AI stuff. It's like, I think that's the way to think about it. It's like, I've got this way of saying or creating something. How could I have this tool help me create this other part of it? I mean, if you're conducting an orchestra, you're not playing every instrument in the orchestra, but you're still able to communicate a composition or, conduct an orchestra to create a sound. So so it's legit, it's legit. What can I say?
No, we get it. We get it. Oh, this is amazing.
Yeah, I love it.
We don't get to have these conversations so I know we're sitting there just enjoying this because
we're taking it in.
We have them with ourselves, but we don't, outside of Chris, maybe every now and then we get a chance to have these conversations. So we're enjoying this.
These are the ones I like. I think, like all of us as creatives, we want to make music and we think about this stuff. And if we don't, we probably do. Or if we don't know that we're thinking about it, we probably are thinking about it,
The truth is there's so many other ways to make money. If you're doing music at this point, you gotta love it. You gotta love it. I think you asked something about taking something from what does it take to complete it or take something, and I'm still stuck on that for some reason. The idea of introducing something, I think too. You talk about that luxury of scrolling on the phone, but I think when you're scrolling, depending on what you're looking for, if you hear a voice, you hear somebody sing in a way that maybe that doesn't sound like everything else. Cause I think that's one thing we over consume as it is. And as we're consuming so many different talented people, you start recognizing that, there is probably one or two leaders of the pack and 500,000 people emulating or attempting to emulate that leader of the pack. And when you hear somebody that sounds like they don't really care where that pack is going, they kind of want to do their own thing, that's enough to make me be like, I want to do what they're doing, or I would love to collaborate with them and figure out how to be able to create something with them. That's something that keeps me up at night. It's already terrible to scroll, right? But if you scroll and you do find something, I'm waiting until 8:30 in the morning to email Jennifer, to have Jennifer email the artist, be like, look, I saw somebody myself, like, who needs an A&R department? I'll do it myself. And we need to figure out how to get in touch with this person, because you don't get that feeling a lot. And that sounds so bleak, but you don't get that feeling a lot these days where you see and hear something that just excites you to the point of you want to stop everything and work.
Well, it sparks an idea for me too. You were joking about, like, I'm not a singer, right? So I think that a lot of us say something like that or somebody in Nashville saying, I'm not a guitar player, because they're surrounded by so many great guitar players. But when we say that, what we're really saying is, I can make a sound, I can do a thing, but it doesn't sound like what I'm familiar with in terms of like, what a good singer is supposed to sound like or what a good guitar player is supposed to sound like. We might feel that way, but to your point of doing something that's totally different and leading the pack, maybe that's all the more reason for us to all find our voice and get out there and start creating, is because we need to, like, we're here, we already exist, we're already speaking, we're already having a conversation, we got voices. How do we apply that to our own creations so that we put ourselves out there and say something new and different?
I'm telling you, rock star therapy. I'll be the first one. I'll sign up.
Yeah.
That's thank you. That's another ouch. We do ouch when somebody says something and it hits too close to home. We verbally let them like, ouch. Okay, I got it, because I know I need to apply it, and that's one of those moments. Like you're 100% right. I have no excuse for. I think confirmations. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, let me see here. I've got a question for both of you, and this is one I like to ask all the guests on the podcast. It's a hypothetical question, but we get to take the Wayback Studio machine, and you go back in time, and you find young Ronnie and young Tiffany, maybe before you guys met each other in the studio that one time and had coffee, and you say, listen, I've come back to give you this one bit of advice. Here's the single most important thing you need to know to be a rock star of the studio yourself one day. So Tiffany, for you, and then Ronnie, for you, what would you go back and tell yourself if you could? What advice would you like to go back and give yourself?
That is a great question.
Yeah.
I always love that question because there's always a different answer.
I was say give them the honest answer. Give them the answer you said last week.
Which one? I don't know. There's always a different answer.
Ooh, I can put Tiffany on the spot. She said that she would not have gone to the studio that day, the day we met.
And then Ronnie was like, but.
Yeah, there were a lot.
How was I going to meet you?
Exactly. And our children, and we may not have this moment with Liz.
It was a great studio session. That's why she said it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's so funny. I would tell young Tiffany to continue to trust yourself, but trust yourself more. Your intuition is there for a reason, and this is your experience to live. So make sure that you make the most of it in every moment. And there is no ceiling, only the stars.
I love it. I wrote something down just the other day. I said, I am my own ceiling.
I love that.
And Ronnie, how about you?
Can't follow that.
Ronnie's like,
both
my
of you?
advice I would tell you is go find that girl Tiffany and listen to what she said.
Hey, listen, I did something right that day. You're still here. Man, I don't know. This whole journey's been different. And I would say that in respect to everybody's journey being different. But I think for me, be consistent with knowing your talent. I think if I look at it, I'm thankful for where everything took, but I think there were times where I created roadblocks for myself, because I think naturally, if you're from, like me, I'm dating myself, I'm 41, right? Engineers and producers we were behind the camera. You didn't really see us. You didn't know who we were. And I think the same may even be for songwriters. But for me, it was intentional. I never wanted to be in front of a camera or like in anyone's spotlight. And I think when certain wheels started happening and I found myself in certain spotlights, I was so uncomfortable with that I just got out. I got out as soon as the gears started going fast. And that has caused me in, last 10 years, whatever there may be, to have to work double hard to make up for the inconsistencies in just knowing your talent. Your talent is one thing. If you have that talent, you're consistent with it, you kind of get a chance to dictate how you were seen, when you were seen, where you were seen. I didn't know that back then. So I would just say be consistent with knowing your talent and writing your rules for how you want your talent to be showcased.
I love that.
Yeah, that's like what Tiffany said, trusting yourself too is a form of knowing your talent, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely. And I would say if there's one other thing that I could add, um, it would be trust yourself enough, love yourself enough to be here tomorrow.
Liz, I know you said.
No, are the three of us actually going to literally be here again for this interview again tomorrow? I don't.
We could. Let's check the calendar.
Great.
This has been great.
I know you
guys,
said
thank
that.
Oh, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I know you said you are your own ceiling, but I would ask you too. I want to know what you say to that question.
I think about this because I'm like, one of these days, somebody's going to make me answer this question. I would go back and I would encourage myself to trust my own voice. And I would encourage myself to realize that the things that I was thinking and the stuff that I was into was not only legit, but it was actually the path I was supposed to go. Don't be too dazzled by the success of others so that you think you need to go in their direction. Don't be self-critical and sort of self-effacing. But don't be sort of like self-embarrassed about what I might have done because, around what somebody else is creating. Maybe it looks like so flashy that I'm like, my thing's stupid. It's silly. Because it's the more I've followed my own ideas and my own creations through, two things happen. One is I can feel I just feel like fulfilled. I feel uplifted when I like pursue the idea that I'm having and I see it through and I express it and I sing it or play it or record it or write it or whatever it is, or even just like make a card for somebody for their birthday, any of those things. So it's like the act of creating. I end up feeling so good afterwards, like life is beautiful, And the other thing that happens is I often find that there's like greater success at the end of that path.
Yep.
I mean, I had that literally specifically happen. See, you asked me the question. I had that happen with a couple of bands I was producing. I poured myself so deep into this particular band that I was working with and pursuing major labels and like working 7 days a week and, just like not sleeping, all of it. And I thought like, this is the one that's going to break. This is the one that's going to break. And then when I went home, I co-produced another band with a friend of mine, a mentor friend, and had so much fun working with those guys. And it was goofy and fun, and we were just having a great time, and it was like really playful, and I could try any idea I had. And the whole time through that, I kept thinking to myself, the band that I'm working so hard on and getting my ass kicked in, that's got to be the one that's going to be the answer, that's going to make a real income for me and everything else. And then the other one that I'm just playing around and being myself with, I really love it, but I don't know if anybody's really going to dig it and all that kind of stuff. Well, as far as success stories goes, the first one sort of kept falling apart and not getting completed and not really ever having a hit out there and stuff like that. And then the one that I was having fun with got like a huge signing, bidding war going and was, a great record deal. And then the single got picked up and it was used in commercials and it was just like everybody loved it. And, it's still, both bands in the end went the way the bands do, sometimes you go to a label and then that kind of fades out back out of your big picture. And now you're sort of hopefully on a career path. But that was kind of my story around that is like, trust what you're into because the more you love it and the better you're going to feel about pursuing it. And the more likely that the work you create is going to be the best work you've ever done because it's coming from you and it's coming from the heart. And it's got that, like you said, it's got that thing that doesn't sound like everybody else.
Thank you. I know I spun it around and you were a good sport to answer it, but that's the journalist student in me wanting to, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Yes,
It's a pleasure to meet both of you and get to do this interview with you. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Let the rock stars know one more time, if they're fascinated by what you're doing, if they want to go learn more about it, reach out to you guys. They are looking for the next greatest music. They're looking for the next greatest producer, the next greatest singer, guitar player, whatever it is. How would you like the rock stars to follow you, get in touch with you, ask questions, any of that?
Our social handles are Asymbli, Asymbli. Also, This is Breach, and that's across all platforms.
Yeah, I think it's everything.
Yeah. And then
Right on.
Ronnie Notch, Ty Notch.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for being here. Really appreciate it. Rockstars, thanks for hanging with us and listening through the whole podcast. If you're hearing the audio version, we're on YouTube. And if YouTube isn't around any longer, we're on some other video platform. We're in VR. And so please come check it out. If you enjoyed this, hit that like button. As they say, as the kids say, smash that like button.
Smash that like button.
Subscribe, so you get more of these videos. And also just know that and, leaving your thoughts in the comments, anything you want to say about this, anything that sort of inspired you would be wonderful to hear. Or anything you think we got wrong, would be great. We like feedback. But that also helps the video reach more people like yourself and reach more people who it totally connects with. So thanks for watching. And Tiffany and Ronnie, thank you so much for being on the show with us.
Thank you.
I'll see you guys around the studio. Cheers. Thanks so much for listening to Recording Studio Rockstars. If you enjoyed the show and want to help make it better, then please share this episode with your friends on social media and leave a rating and review on iTunes to help the podcast reach more rock stars like yourself. You can click directly over to iTunes or go to rsrockstars.com/review for an easy explanation. And remember to hit the subscribe button to keep up with weekly episodes. And if you're ready to make your best record ever now, then head over to Recording Studio Rockstars Academy, where you can start with my free course at mixmasterbundle.com. Thanks so much for listening, and thanks for being a rock star. I'm Lid Shaw, and this is Recording Studio Rockstars. Now, go make great music. Recording Studio Rockstars would like to give a big thank you to our fantastic sponsors who make this episode possible. iZotope, Native Instruments, SAE Institute, Atom Audio, Spectra 1964, Grace Design, and Picker. And remember to take advantage of our special coupon code ROCK10 for 10% off any plugin purchase at iZotope.com or nativeinstruments.com. And don't forget, you can start mixing right now with my free course at mixmasterbundle.com. If you enjoyed Recording Studio Rockstars, please check out our sponsors using the links in the show notes below. These are all things I highly recommend for your studio. They're going to help you make your best record ever. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, because it's a great way to help support this show. And I'd also like to thank our fantastic team here at Recording Studio Rockstars, Vlad Weselchenko, Daria Tupesis, and Max Young. Thanks so much for watching and listening, and we'll see you in the next episode. Cheers.